Did the Warriors make a mistake by trading Jordan Poole when they traded him? Because we were just bebopping along with Ramona. We're talking about summer league, draft picks, potential free agent signings on the minimum. And then all of a sudden, this clam bake comes flying out.
This feels like the Warriors just decided to go all in with this current core, which is what we were talking about last year. Like, do they just stick with the big three and ride till the end? That's kind of what it seems like they're doing. And it's now the question is who rides with them. Does Moody ride with them? I think Looney's kind of part of that now, isn't he? Like, he's not quite the big three, but he's at least Sean Livingston, at least in that level.
Right.
Can Moody join that? Can JK join that? That's a big question. So it's interesting. The Warriors had a couple of decisions to make this year, and the timing plays a part in this. Chris Paul's $30 million is, they're going to play him this year, but he's unguaranteed for next year, so it gives them optionality. They have that now with Klay Thompson's contract. We'll see if they do an extension and what it looks like. They have that with Chris Paul. They had another choice. I mean, they could have waited for Dame. Dame is from the Bay Area. I know he was interested. If he got to the point where he was going to ask for a trade and, the list was given, the Warriors initially would have been on that list. But I think now it's not possible, right, because of the moves they've made, they sort of locked in.
I don't know if you were where I was mentally as she's saying that. And I was like, I'm sorry, come again?
Yeah.
Quote, I know Dame was interested. And it's fascinating on many levels. Obviously, he grew up in Oakland.
Yeah.
And obviously, he is one of the top 15 players in the NBA. I don't think there's any question about that. However, I also think the Warriors have been the center of, the opposite of Dame's vibe for the last 7 or 8 years. He has always been, he was the one who coined the phrase, run from the grind. I'm not going to run from the grind. That conversation started when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors. Kevin Durant joins Steph, Clay, and Dre, and that eventually leads to Dame being the guy who's like, I'm not leaving where I was drafted. I'm not going to run from the grind. And now here we are a number of years later where Dame literally would have been interested in doing the exact same thing in the same place that Kevin Durant once did?
Yeah, and I think that it's mainly because of where this place is. I think that if this construct would have been in Indiana or Memphis, I don't think that he would have been that interested in running to that situation as he may have been coming home to Golden State. The fact that he's from here, he's got family here. Heck, my tax guy, as we bring it all the way back to the crossover, is a family friend. And so he's been a big-time Dame Lillard fan. And I've had intel on Dame Lillard and what he's thinking and what he's gone through every tech season going back to about 2018. Shout out Big Kurt over there in the East Bay. Damian Lillard is the Bay Area. He is the East Bay. If you go into Oakland right now and you shout the name Damian Lillard, you will find a relative or a close family friend within 8 seconds. So I think that part of it makes this make more sense than what you're talking about where, I'm here for the grind. I don't run from the grind. Well, now you're 11 years in Portland. And how's the grind worked out for you? Well, you've been an all-star 7 times, and you're going to be a Hall of Famer. You're one of the great scorers in the history of the league, but do you want to be Allen Iverson? Or do you want to be somebody who has a chance to win a championship?
So did the Warriors make a mistake by pulling the trigger when they did?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because you had to do what you could do when you had a chance to do it. You couldn't roll the dice on having Jordan Poole on your team on July 6th and still be wondering, because right now, let's just pretend that they didn't make that trade. And so Draymond gets his deal, and we're all talking about, and I'm not going to use the P word because you said, can we get to 2:30 without talking about it?
But the answer could be no. You're free to just say whatever you want to say. You know that, right? I can
say what I want to say.
And even if you hold out, I might just come in and mess the whole thing up.
I don't think you will,
right,
because it's not what you do. But let's just say that Draymond and Jordan Poole, as I use a different P word, are both Golden State Warriors on this day, July 6th. All we're talking about is, can they play together? And Dibs, you said they can't play together, and yet Draymond signed, and Jordan Poole's got a deal. And you know what? Jordan and Draymond are both going to be here for the next 4 years. How's that going to work out? I don't think the team would have wanted that distraction. They would have wanted to have this be done before the Draymond Green contract was signed, even if it meant missing out on Dame Lillard.
Well, there's a little bit more that Ramona had to say, which, because we followed up and we're like, again, come again. You said the Warriors might have been able to talk to the Blazers about Dame Lillard rather than Chris Paul if Jordan Poole was still on the team. Here's what she said.
It's an interesting thought experiment that we don't need to. It's not going to be reality now because Jordan Poole would have had to be in that trade probably. The Warriors do have young players. People like Jordan Poole is a good young player. Jonathan Kuminga is a good young player. Like if they wanted to go that way, but I really think financially that is the biggest prohibitive thing there. Dame is from Oakland. There has always been an interest level in playing back in the Bay, back at home, right? There's always been that idea of what if, but they're not going to get that trade done with the Chris Paul contract.
Yeah, obviously this is now water under the bridge, but for me, the question remains, and I'm a bird in the hand type of a guy, and I think that applies here, but the question does remain, if she says, hey, they could have waited and Dame would have been interested, then the question is out there, should Mike Dunleavy have waited? Should he have waited? I have no idea, what a risky game of chicken to play.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea if Dame's going to get to the point of actually asking for a trade. You also have no idea if Portland would want what you have to offer in return. And the reason it's a big risk is because if any of the answers to those questions are no, well, then you're stuck with Jordan Poole. And I think for most of us, we've gotten to the point where it's now been established. And even if you're on Poole's side over Draymond or however you parse this out in your brain, I think we're all at the point of realizing that Jordan Poole couldn't be on the Warriors anymore with the current crop of veterans they have.
Right. And also, to your point, and we had this discussion with an unnamed Warriors representative back when we did our show on draft day at Chase Center, the Warriors aren't doing 4 contracts of $25 million or more. So let's just say you don't do that deal and you trade Jordan and Kuminga and Moody, whatever the deal is, and you get Dame Lillard. Well, that means Klay Thompson's going to be gone because you signed Draymond Green and he's going to be north of $25 million. You got Steph Curry and Dame is making 45 this year, then 48, then 58, then 63.
You're forgetting Wiggins, though.
No, that's my point.
But they are going to have 4 people making north of 25. I guess, Draymond is
depending on
barely
Klay.
Below it. Well, right. I don't think you're going to get Klay for less than 25 next year, are you?
No, but the point is Dame would have been at 48.8 next year. So if you bring in Dame and not Chris Paul, well, Dame next year, not this year, next year would be 48.8, and Chris is going to be 0. So does Joe Lacob want to completely gut the future to bring in Damian Lillard and hope that it works out?
I think gutting the future would be the least of his concerns. I think a lot of people think he has gutted the future. They've traded James Wiseman and Jordan Poole all within the last 8 months. So you could easily make the case that they're not worried about that. I think your financial point is a fair one.
Yeah.
With everything we know about their finances, I have no idea how they would do something like this. However, we also don't know who would be going out. Who would the Warriors have offered? I think it's easy for us to go, well, you just got the future. Poole and
it's Poole, Kuminga, and Moody and a pick.
And a pick. I don't even, does the finances even get you there if you do that?
Poole, Kuminga, and Moody.
That's less than 40.
It gets you close.
It might get you close.
Well, Dame's only making 45, so you just need to be within $5 million of the 45. You need to get to 40, and Jordan's making 28, and Kuminga's making 6. So I think
got a ways to go.
But you're in the ballpark. I think the interesting other point is, would you now, sitting where you're sitting, would you trade Klay for Damian Lillard?
What about Wiggins?
I mean, what about Wiggins and Klay?
Well, no.
And throw in Steph too?
No,
but I mean,
now there's not enough money coming back in return.
The Klay Lillard money matches up to where you do Klay in a pick, or I don't know. I mean, to me, the Dame Lillard thing is probably dead, but it's not completely dead.
No, I think it's dead. I think it's totally dead. I mean,
well, Dame's out there.
Yeah, but how would they do it? How would the Warriors do it now?
You would trade Klay for Damian Lillard. So Clay would go to Portland.
The Blazers have got to want more than an expiring contract for Damian Lillard.
Okay, so you throw in a pick, and you've got picks eventually. You throw in a pick in 2039 or whatever.
If I'm Portland, I'm not interested in that. I hear you, but if I'm
Portland's going to be quickly running out of options.
I don't know.
Because the agent Aaron Goodwin, also from Oakland, I believe, he's already intimating that Dame, he wants to go where he wants to go or else.
He wants to go to Miami, and they're calling other teams and telling them don't do it because you're going to have an unhappy player.